Welcome to Agentic Pathcast, your guide to the rapidly evolving world of agentic automation. I'm your host, Nick Kabanov, Solution Architect at UiPath. At Agentic Pathcast, we explore how intelligent automation is transforming businesses, reshaping workflows, and creating new possibilities across industries. Whether you're a business executive, technology leader, or automation enthusiast, each episode provides you with insights, expert perspectives, and actionable strategies to harness the power of automation agents in your organization. Let's start by exploring the automation journey from rules to intelligence. Traditional RPA emerged as a game changer for businesses, focusing on automating repetitive, rules-based tasks with clear inputs and outputs. Think data entry and form completion. Tasks where robots follow explicit instructions without deviation. As organizations matured in the automation journey, they encountered a critical limitation. Many business processes involve unstructured data and require judgment. This led to the rise of AI-powered automation, which enhanced RPA with cognitive capabilities like document understanding, natural language processing, and machine learning. Suddenly, robots could read documents, understand emails, and make simple decisions based on patterns. However, even with these advancements, humans still needed to define the processes, design the workflows, and handle exceptions. The automation was powerful, but fundamentally reactive and dependent on human direction. So for us, another important aspect to consider is the agentic breakthrough, autonomous decision-making. The breakthrough with agentic automation is its ability to operate with genuine autonomy. Unlike traditional automation that follows predefined paths, agentic systems can perceive the environment, reason about it, and formulate their own action plans to achieve goals. This represents a fundamental shift in how automation works. Instead of telling a system exactly what to do, businesses can now specify what they want to achieve. The agent then determines how to accomplish it, adapting to changing circumstances and learning from experience. Powered by large language models, generative AI, large action models, these agents can understand contexts, recognize patterns in unstructured data, and make complex decisions that previously required human judgment. They can even structure their own workflows, identifying the optimal sequence of steps to complete a task. Finally, let's look at the business impact, transforming what's possible. The business impact of this evolution cannot be overstated. While RPA delivered significant efficiency gains for structured processes, agentic automation is transforming what's possible across the enterprise. First, it enables end-to-end automation of complex workflows that were previously impossible to fully automate. Where traditional automation might have automated 40 to 60% of a process, agentic automation can potentially handle 80 to 95, with humans focusing solely on strategic oversights and exception handling. Second, it's addressing the long tail of automation. Those numerous small variable processes that weren't cost-effective to automate with traditional approaches. Agents can adapt to variations without requiring constant reprogramming, dramatically expanding automation's reach. Finally, agentic automation is changing the nature of human work. Rather than humans serving the automation by handling exceptions and maintaining rigid processes, automation now truly serves humans, acting as intelligent collaborators and that enhance human capabilities and free people to focus on creative, strategic work that delivers higher value. This evolution represents not just a technological advancement, but a fundamental reimagining of how work gets done in the enterprise. To dive deeper into this topic, I'm joined by Boris Krumrey, Global Vice President for Automations Innovation at UiPath. Welcome to Agentic Pathcast. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Boris, could you tell me a little bit more about yourself and what brought you into this agentic automation journey?
I think from my background, being in consulting all these years, doing outsourcing and solutioning for outsourcing deals, many years with Accenture, Infosys, then Atos, I came across RPA because we had a target at Atos to achieve a 10% savings across all the operations. And so how could you do that? You have to, constantly work on your laptop and so forth. So yeah, this is when I played around with different tools, and I still play around with many tools in AI. And I came across UiPath, and I felt this had something that sticks, something that is easy and intuitive, and it's kind of, and it's reliable because it's not just simply screen scraping. So this is when I kind of discovered it and then negotiated with Daniel directly, which was a very good start for UiPath. At one point he said, well, Boris, why don't you join? And I was always very excited about the whole theme of reinventing how the workplace is going to be, how we work in an assisted way with embedded AI, because RPA and AI has always been a theme from the very beginning.
I agree with you. It's an exciting journey, and it's great to be part of it. Boris, when it comes to agentic automation, beyond efficiency gains, what strategic business outcomes are organizations achieving with agentic automation that weren't possible with, traditional or robotic process automation?
I think that's a brilliant question, because that's still a question or an answer many, many business leaders that I connect with trying to solve. And everybody has to kind of understand it in its own way. In a nutshell, when you think about how we started with RPA, very rule-based, but very reliably. We could kind of scrape whatever is on the screen. We can kind of enter into the field. So we could replicate what a person is doing. But when it came to a point where you had to make a decision, where you had to analyze multiple factors, where you had to kind of do something that we could just, in simple way to say, think in a way, or do a complex reasoning, then it was very difficult, because either you had a very specialized machine learning model that was absolutely fine-tuned for that particular task or assessment, or you had to kind of build one from scratch. So a very complex area. And when we started in 2017, specialized models were there, and it was coming more and more, but getting them to the level that they are so easy configurable, like today where you just use natural language, that's a breakthrough. What does that help us? It helps us today to put a bit more fuzzier capabilities into the rule base that we had before. So now we can actually ask for reflecting about the task we are doing, or even just saying, can you define the onboarding task? And it will define it itself with the necessary information and inputs, and it doesn't require anymore us to really deterministically setting it out how it needs to be. And that's the big difference. So that's one factor. Another factor is that, and this is the more difficult part, is that it now also becomes dynamic. So I have the option to either specify and put some AI components into my workflow, but it's still relatively deterministic, or I can be just very flexible and say, I give it more autonomy and let the process, or the agent in this case, decide which steps to take as I've fed it with all the necessary information it would need in order to define the process at runtime. And that's immensely powerful. Now you could basically fast track things where you would need consultants for. That's the revolutionary part. But the problem is that because it's dynamic, it's not deterministic. It could vary. You're not controlling the model. You're not controlling the execution. You're just leaving it up to the agent. That's a bit the scary part. And that's, of course, a bit contradictory to how enterprises run, where everything needs to be clearly auditable and compliant and so forth. So we're entering in this world. We see a massive possibility, a massive flexibility. That's why it's not so easy to just deploy as we are enjoying ChatGPT and all these things in our maybe private life or whatever, if we need some help how to write things or whatsoever.
And there's definitely, I think, was an expectation in the beginning that it's going to be so easy to plug it in, because everybody looked at those models like ChatGPT, which was one of the first that came out and became very popular. So what you spoke about enterprise and deployment leads me to your next question, which is, what organization capabilities or infrastructure do companies need to have in place before successfully implementing agentic automation?
Well, the first big aspect when you talk about infrastructure is, of course, the cloud dependency. Because these models have been trained and also use a lot of computation power, you get that only in the cloud. There are, of course, other configurations that you can do it more private or put it into your own, like a containerized in your own data center and so forth. But they are dependent on on the cloud infrastructure, which of course gives a huge benefit to all the hyperscalers, right?
Yeah.
But what the hyperscalers are not doing is putting it all together, orchestrating and managing it all across, because everyone just has interest to make kind of money with their solution. The other aspect of it is that a business really, in order to do that, they need to have a capability within their business to get closer to IT or to technology. And that has always been the problem. Even in the RPA world, we had to deal with the challenges that our customers were coming to from the business and saying, can you talk to our IT department and convince them that your solution is the right solution? And I try to explain when you look at our platform that one of the biggest benefits of the platform we have is that we can make it easy for a business process expert or business person to natural language build a simple agent just as a proven concept and then say, but I need this access to this data and this and this and this. And so what happens is that the business analyst becomes almost the creator of these agents, not the IT department. He is a business analyst. So someone is closer to the business. And in this way, we're bringing the first delivery point of the solution closer to the business user and the business analyst. And that's going to be the new factor that accelerates the bringing business and technology together.
Yeah, it's a big cultural shift as well. Can we rely on our business analysts to do the job that IT did before? So all those questions, and we're going to talk about that as well. You mentioned that the journey of agentic automation is going to be similar to the journey that we have with the robotic process automation. I'm going to refer to that at RPA later. Two things that were really remarkable and I'd say disruptive with RPA. First one, how easily and quickly you can implement the solution. It's not like years, or even months, weeks to have a dream of what you want to automate and change in your business process and actually releasing the solution. And the second one was the return on investments. So if you buy, I don't know, a restaurant, you're not expecting to have money back in even 1 year. You're not buying or building any business to expect that. With this RPA, which is a technical tool, you can have a return on investment in less than 9 months. It was very, very powerful. How does it change with agentic automation?
It's more complex, as you can see, because you're putting it into something dynamic and it's kind of pre-designed to be modified at a later stage. So it's like as if you always say, I have a stage 1, stage 2, and a stage 3. That's what I also have to put into my plan as soon as I implement an agentic solution. That is not something that we have done in any IT project in the past. We said, here's the solution. Here you go. It runs, it's fixed. And then, of course, we assume through maintenance and upgrades. But now everything changes so fast. You have a leap of a kind of progression of a new model. Now, how do you want to keep anything like an agentic automation or an agent static? It's just almost impossible because of the quick advancement. Whereas the beauty of a rule-based construct is, of course, that it's fixed, it's deterministic, it's reliable, it's very easy verifiable.
How would that change the return on investments when the CEO hopefully thinking, I want to start this journey. I'm inspired by what Boris is telling me. How do you think they gonna have to think about, what return I'm getting from that?
And that's a difficult one because the uninformed person reads all this kind of whatever they see from a perception level and think, it saves money, it makes me more efficient. No, with the whole agentic approach or agent approach, you have to completely rethink how you work today. So now this is why I love it so much because it's kind of the continuation of what we started with RPA, robotic process automation. So best example, there are startups out there that would have had 30 people to deliver software and do all kinds of things and the marketing operations and whatsoever if they would have done it maybe 3 or 5 years ago. Now they just code wipe the whole solution. They just, kind of create agents that do all the social media work. Now we can even configure conversational voice agents that could kind of have a casual conversation with potential people who are interested in the solution whatsoever. You could already build an augmented organization that just has a few people driving those core functions. Wow. I mean, that's what it's going to look like in the future. So that means even for a big company, you have to rethink everything. But until people know the new way of working, that change management challenge is going to be the next challenge for the next 5 to maybe 8 years. Or 10 years, we're going to be busy just kind of finding the best paths to adopt and change around this, whilst the whole AI technology is super fast pacing ahead with new and new capabilities and different, whether it's video, whether it's this, whether it's that, and so forth. And UiPath, we're going to create vertical solutions with giving those companies these virtual accountants, these virtual HR workers, these virtual, that. And so now as a CEO, you need to kind of rethink, am I ready for this path? What would I need to do in order to restructure my entire business and do a massive change in enabling people to embrace this? And who would advise them to say, well, here's the technology that can do that? It's all going to be around the hardship for us humans to really learn to adopt and embrace this into our business operation, into our really daily work.
One of the comparisons we can do, like what's different, I think with RPA, robotic process automation, we focus so much on operational stuff, like how can I improve my operations? How can I have people working on more less mundane and repetitive tasks and let robots do that? Essentially also cutting the cost on the mundane labor, but also enabling people to do a better job. And then with this thing, we're moving into a direction where I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're checking what is my now go-to-market time going to be if I implement agents? What are my competitors doing in that? Thinking about stuff like days payables outstanding, days sales outstanding, how that's going to improve. Because even if I hire 100 people, I had this conversation another day with a financial director. Yeah. There are challenges where they look at the solution and they think, wow, even if I hire 100 people tomorrow, which is such a challenge,
Yeah.
They still are not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be that type
of shift of adopting to this development, knowing how to use those. In the past, we could always say, we'll take the work you don't like to do. We'll take all the ugly work, entering data and spreadsheets and data entry we remove. And every worker will be relieved and say, yeah, give me RPA tomorrow. But now when we bring in agents, is this agent going to take away my work? Yes, it's going to take away parts of the work. But what they need to ask themselves now is, what would I do to make my work even better, faster, and whatsoever? So it's a totally different kind of thinking. You can introduce it in this way. I'm promoting everyone to a manager, and you have to manage those agents or robots or whatever. But you have to kind of give them clear instructions, what to do, what results you want to have, and so forth. And that question, they were never asked, and they were not trained to think about. So that's going to be the challenge.
Absolutely. We're all going to overcome those challenges together. What I truly believe in, this is going to bring us to a brighter future than we have right now. I just cannot imagine that people like doing mundane and repetitive tasks, and I cannot imagine that they like doing boring tasks. There are a lot of discussions about the 4-day working week, so you can spend more time with your family, but still be effective. There's a lot of cultural shit just beyond the technology.
Could be an idea. Let's imagine you basically, the more you automate, the less you really need to work, but still get the same pay. So this is actually an idea. If you think of, you train the people so that they're capable to do it. And so if they, for the same job they're doing now, are able to automate and augment through agents half of their work or more, they don't need to come to work and can do it. Like, God, we're coming up with an idea here.
That's an advice. Actually, the next question that I had, exactly about that. So many things are happening. you mentioned that it's not just us, the technology producers, who are going to change the world. It's a mutual work of everyone. Consulting, CEOs themselves, workers, managers, cultural shift. Then what advice would you give to C-suite leaders who are just beginning to explore agentic automation? Never heard about anything like that. They just accidentally clicked on this podcast.
By now, everyone has heard about agents and AI agents and agentic agents, and I'm sure they all want to explore it. Would I trust it? That's the first question. Is it really enterprise ready? I would not just trust my IT department. It definitely also need the advice from the business as well of what their needs are. It's worthwhile to define a good use case that the executive understands, you give as a task, and to have that implemented. This is just to give you and give all the people involved the possibility to experience, is it a trustworthy product? Where are the downsides and so forth? Because we read so much about all kinds of agentic here, agentic AI there, agents there, and whatsoever. And to be honest, today still many have different understandings of agents. Some mean actually conversational agents. Others just limit agents to less functions that we have in our platform. And they all call it agents. Or IBM recently invented the simple reflex agent, which was just a rule-based API workflow. You know, why do you have to call it agent? Everybody's trying to come up with the marketing around the tool, even though it's not. Favorite flavor now is orange, so everything has to be orange. So, and that's skepticism, of course, every C-suite has right from the very beginning. So that's why it's important to not just read all this info, but really play with it, really experience it, really give it a real task to master that can give you a clear indication that this is now different in the first place. The second thing is, once you've done that kind of proof point or proof case or whatever, then you need to think about how would I change my program? So my operations of my business. Because the first thing your proof point needs to be something where you can say, is it capable to replace a full role of a person? That's the question. That use case needs to prove that. Something that you would find difficult to imagine that it can make that decision and be like an autonomous role to perform. Once you've identified that, take the learnings and then say, okay, if I'm able to do this, then you can really think about what would that mean for my entire operation and business? What kind of roles can I now modify, transform, and whom in my organization can I enable to learn this technology so that they will be able to run and operate this? So then that part of question, maybe you involve a consulting company and so forth to help you to do that, because it's a big change management task when it comes. But you also have to be sure whether you found the right technology that gives you that bandwidth that you will need. And that's going to be the challenge. You're not going to find many. And the hyperscalers like Microsoft and so forth have all the components, the screws, the nuts, the bolts, but they're not the I don't know whether you're Fisher Technic set or the Lego set that, allows you to really kind of build the whole thing new. So you need something that is a layer, orchestration layer on top of that is tightly integrated with all that and eliminates many of these different variants of AI technologies that you have and limits it to the relevant ones that you really need. So when you follow that path, then you're good. And be prepared for, it's going to be quite a drastic change. That means pick a particular department, pick a particular area, particular service line, or whatever it is that you can isolate nicely, reinvent, and then you can think about what this means in a bigger picture. Well, Boris, it's a great pleasure to have you here today, and thanks a lot for those insights. Very helpful for CEOs and other leaders who are listening to this podcast. If our listeners want to learn more about your work, where can they find you? Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. They can reach out to me. But best thing is reaching out to us here at UiPath, and we are happy to share more about how that really looks like in reality on specific use cases. Because that's the moment and people realize what it really means, and then they can translate it into what it means in their business operations. That's a key thing. That's why I do the innovation labs. So this is where we show instead of just tell.
This is a brilliant thing, this innovation lab is. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Boris.
You're welcome.
So let's recap the key points from today's episode. Traditional RPA focused on rule-based tasks with clear inputs and outputs, but was limited when facing unstructured data and processing requiring judgment. Agentic automation represents a fundamental shift. Instead of following predefined path, this system can perceive the environment, reason about it, and formulate their own actions to achieve goals. The business impact is transformative, enabling end-to-end automation of complex workflows, addressing the long tail of automation, and fundamentally changing the nature of human work from serving automation to being served by it. If you'd like to learn more about the evolution from RPA to agentic automation, visit UiPath.com for additional resources. In our next episode, we'll be exploring building trust in autonomous systems and addressing concerns about reliability and decision-making in agentic automation. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for listening to Agentic Pathcast. I'm Nick Kabanov, and I'll talk to you next time.